All right, and assuming that nothing is broken, everything should be good, and we should be live. So, how's it going, everybody? It's been a week since. Has it been a week since? No, it's only been like 2 days since I've been live. The days are blending together. I'm sorry,
I
but
it's
but we do have Ocean on this time, which is something that hasn't
Hi,
happened that often.
I'm back. Meh. It's been a minute. Um,
It has.
but here I am. I have returned.
Awesome. Well, so normally during Hammered Out, we try to do one of two things. Either we'll go over a video or any type of article or something and hash out the issues we have with, like we did with the Nathan Guy video, or we'll have a guest on. But given the nature of today, for my part, I know that I've been way too busy because if I haven't been producing an episode for my channel or trying to spend some time with other people, which you can ask Pam, hasn't happened as much as probably needs to happen. I've been recording scripts for something completely different that I don't want to get into, but it's one of those like necessary evil type of things.
It's his book of poetry.
It's the only reason that we can keep the channel up doing daily videos is because I have the other side thing as well, because the channel doesn't make enough for me to do that yet. But that's fine. That's just that's the necessary evil thing. Side effect of that has been the days blending together and waking up and doing nothing but working for 13 hours straight, which sounds a little bit like what Ocean might have also been doing.
Yeah. I was on a gig, and it's long days, but
Yeah.
yeah, which you well know at this point.
Yes, I've been on the production crew as well. At least one day. Circumstances kind of fudged me on being able to do anything besides that. But dead family members or cats also cause problems when it comes to that. Um,
Let's start off with light topics.
let's start off with the light topics, guys. It's okay.
Here, I'll run away with that real quick and introduce your haircut. Have you been live with this
I was
military badass cut? Like you're about
I
to
was
like
I
looks like
was
you're about to throw down.
I just
Like I'm a little scared of you.
well, I mean, does it help if I just like sit here with the hammer
Yes,
just like this?
that's great. That's now I'm intimidated. Did
Intimidated.
words. That's a lot of D's and intimidated too.
Fair enough.
But
As for being live with this, I've been live, but not on my channel. Yesterday was actually on the Altered Perspective, which is a sister show to the Drunken Peasants. So I was on that yesterday, premiering with this guy right here, which was wonderful because it meant that anybody who was a fan of my channel who saw me there probably didn't recognize me. So the whole appearing on another channel thing really didn't do a whole lot of good at that point.
like, who's this guy that's hiding his boxer gloves or something like that?
No,
You do look like you're about to throw down. It's good.
I got tired of dealing with all the hair. It's this is much nicer. I can actually like feel the wind on my scalp now. It's a
I don't know what that feels like.
Yeah, I have no idea. And then again, I feel like your reason for that and my reason for this might be similar.
Oh yeah, I did this because my fucking hairline was running away.
That's one of the main reasons I did mine as well. Is my hairline was already receding, so it's just like might as well go ahead and get used to it.
It's like fuck it, kill it.
Goodbye, it's gone.
So, uh, we had a debate with Mike Winger
Yeah,
about a week and a half ago.
it should have been a three-way debate where we were against each other as well, but the history behind that kind of fudged things a little bit.
Let me tell you guys, because the debate with Mike Winger was in the works for like a month and a half at least. May have been a little bit longer. When did he contact you? It was like a week or two before the debate.
If even that, it was like it was about a week. That was when I sent you the email, and you didn't quite. I don't think you quite like understood
It
what I
didn't
meant.
register that it was the same thing. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I sent
didn't.
you the email from James. You were just like, yeah, that's neat. And then like the day before, you sent me a message, and you're just like, wait, you're
Wait,
the
it's you?
atheist?
Yeah. So, James sent me a message saying, "Hey, well, I want to have a three-way," and I said, "What?" And he says,
You're
"Debate."
just like, that's sexy.
Um, and he's talking. No, it's just a debate. Okay, cool. So what do you want to do? He wants to have a polytheist, a theist, and an atheist on, or a polytheist, a Christian, and an atheist on at the same time, and have them all yell at each other. And I was like, cool. I'll be the polytheist. Who's going to be the Christian? And he said Mike Winger. It's like, really?
Hmm.
I'm so in. All right, cool. Let's do this. Who's going to be the atheist? And he didn't know at that point, and he wanted some suggestions. I did not suggest Suris.
No.
I,
I'm
I
probably
was
the last person you would have suggested.
right. I was like, I want somebody I'm going to fight with. I want so Gray Skeptic came up, and I suggested the possibility of Godless Engineer, and I said that if you have uh a, set it out the difference. If you have Gray Skeptic on there, it's going to be like uh you might have like a conversation between me and the atheist where we might have a little bit of an epistemology discussion. I don't think that Gray Skeptic is really going to go after me. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't had much contact with the guy. If you have Godless Engineer is going to go after both of us, both me and the Christian. And I think that it would be really interesting to have me, Godless Engineer, and Mike Winger on at the same time, because that we would all have objections to one another, and that would be like a big three-way debate. I didn't hear much after that. We started talking about what day we would have it. Gray Skeptic was involved tentatively, and I don't know if Godless Engineer was ever reached out to, but after that, it's for some reason Gray Skeptic had to back out. I mean, I don't know what exactly it was, but
he works.
it
He
wasn't
actually has a lot of scheduling issues with work because he works like between all the stuff he does. Me and him talked about it when we were at Godless Ion's wedding. Like he puts in like 60, 70
I know
hours.
it wasn't because he didn't want to debate. I think he wanted to do it, but
Oh yeah.
I had like a quick conversation with him before, and I was like, this could be kind of cool. And he's like, yeah. Then but again, I don't know if Godless Engineer was ever reached out to. But then it was billed as like, hey, let's do a co-production with NonSequitur show. I thought it was going to be a simulcast. I didn't know we were doing that switching in the middle thing until the day of.
I think the switching in the middle thing. So like, the switching in the middle thing was good from a YouTuber perspective.
Yeah,
Because it's good for getting people
it
to
moved
cross
all of
promote.
NonSequitur shows people onto.
But like from a debate perspective, having the break in between felt a little weird.
Especially in the middle of my trying to talk about hell.
Yes.
Mike Winger. So I was like, all right, cool. I've blah. we can do this. But then there was an email that was sent to you by MDD,
Yes.
James, and you told me about it. I didn't know that it was you until like it didn't register with me. That
you saw the tweets that it was happening, and you were like, "Wait, what?"
Hold on, wait. Why is Suris being tagged? It's you.
Yeah,
It's gonna be. And I was like, this is not gonna go well for
He's like, this isn't gonna go well for Mike because unfortunately,
he picks the one atheist that I've been to Waffle House with.
Pretty much.
Like that's like we did not design that at all. But his is like, okay, well now the guy that's available is the guy I've actually sussed a lot of things out with already.
It's like we've already had these discussions.
Yeah.
Like you throw any of these questions out at us, we either already agree or we've already agreed that we don't agree, and there's not a whole lot of ground that can be covered after that point.
Right, and furthermore, like the places that we disagree, there's so much freaking subtlety to it that it doesn't. We're not going to go at each other in a debate about it. It doesn't matter. Like,
No.
we get into conversations about the cosmological argument. I agree with some of your objections to it. We get into a conversation about argument from design. I agree with some of your objections to it.
And then we're just sitting there like, well, this makes for it makes for a nuanced conversation, but it doesn't necessarily make for like a terribly exciting debate.
Right. And are we going to have that conversation with Mike Winger just sitting there like looking to the left and right?
Yeah, because Mike would just go like, no, this means that everything is fully in the theist perspective, and me and Ocean would just like look at him and go, no, it doesn't. Stop.
No. But one thing that I didn't want to do is I the conversation that I had with Suris before the debate was essentially, oh, it's you. We didn't do any like I think that you said that you wanted to deal with uh homosexuality, and I said that I was interested in talking with him about hell.
And
And
that was
we
pretty
didn't
much it.
agree that we wouldn't stay out of each other's way or anything like that. But this kind of
There was a point at the when the Q&A section was about to happen that I think I specifically asked James. I said, James, do you have any questions that would at least put me and Ocean against each other? Could you do that, please? Because I want to see
yeah,
what
we wanted
question you
that to
come.
happen.
I want to see what question you can come up with that does actually put us against each other. That would be interesting. Please do that.
The funny thing is that like at the end, like towards not at the end, but towards the end of the debate, like the second half of the modern day debate broadcast, that was brought up, and I went to Mike and I was like, all right, let's find the things that we agree on, and I started listing things that we agree on that you would have a nuanced objection to, but you would still object to it, and we could have Mike and me team up against you. Um, Not that I really wanted to team up with him after all of his like comments about homosexuality, but
Yeah,
um
when he would say that I don't have a problem with it, but it is wrong, is like, well, why do you think it's wrong? If you think it's wrong, then you have a problem with it. There's not
like what
you
is
can't
your objection?
yeah, you can't say I don't have a problem with it, but it's wrong. No,
Right.
if it is the latter, it entails the former.
So the what I try to do is be like, all right, here's the things that I agree with you on. Now, if we can agree on these things, we can go to Suris and try and work together against him. But Mike didn't do that. Mike was like, no, I need to object to the subtleties that you have that disagree with me on those arguments. Like we went into
That's sad that you actively tried
I
to
tried to
find
agree.
some points
I tried to ally with him, and it
and
didn't work.
it didn't work. This is not unlike the first debate that me and Ocean ever had against each other was the multi-person debate. This is not unlike what happened there, where you were part of the theistic side and you got shot at across the bow.
1 second, Instacart decided to arrive right in the middle of the broadcast. I'm going to be right back.
That works out. But yeah, no, when me and Ocean had our debate on Non-Sequitur Show the first time, when we first like really got introduced to one another, he got shot at by Heather during that debate, and Heather was on the theistic side. So it's like this is not an uncommon thing. Also, the reason the Twitter keeps popping up on the screen is because I'm really bad at YouTube, and I didn't move it away from the screen in time. Now it's moved away, and it shouldn't be there. But there is something that I do want to show as soon as Ocean gets back. He's already seen this, but this is actually going to be something that's premiering here. But we'll get into that later. But with that said, Chris Foster says that he feels like I didn't have a lot of talking time. That's part of that's kind of because like Ocean mentioned before, I specifically wanted to talk about the LGBTQ stuff. A lot of the other stuff, Ocean could handle himself on, and if an objection came up that like I had to hop into, I wanted to, because I would like an opportunity in one of those debates to actually be against Ocean as opposed to just kind of sitting in the background. But Mike was taking such a shoddy position. I want to say firm, but it's that's not the word for it. That just me sitting there trying to object to anything, it wouldn't have added anything to the conversation. However, when we got to the LGBTQ stuff, when we got to the idea of human value, that was when I came in with the kind of the axe that I came in to grind. Because I had already done some research on Mike Winger. I'd watched his secular thing for homosexuality, and I was like, okay, well, I want to address this, but I want to address it if it's pertinent to the topic that we're coming on to. Luckily, equal human value is something that is very pertinent to. Unfortunately, James did kind of hop in and rescue him during a part there. But at the same time, James thought that I was deviating off the topic. It was made very clear to him from the audience afterwards that I was not deviating from the topic. So he did apologize for that afterwards, and I give James full credit for that.
Hi, I'm back.
Oh, hi, how's it going?
Groceries just showed up. I was like, cool, Instacart will come eventually. Okay, then it showed up right in the middle of the broadcast.
Out of curiosity, you're doing Instacart. Are you grabbing from Aldi or are you grabbing from Publix?
Kroger.
Kroger? Does Instacart do Kroger now?
Yes.
That's weird. When I was working at Aldi, Instacart only did Publix and Kroger
Well,
or
they've
Publix and
changed.
Aldi. They have changed. Weird.
Yeah.
I'm no longer working at a grocery store, so that's fine. Before we get into the rest of the stuff on the Mike Winger debate, I do want to interrupt, not unlike we were all interrupted during the debate, to go over to Modern Day Debates channel. So there is something here. That image that you guys are seeing that shows Cyrus the Skeptic and my hammer there, that's not an image, actually. That thing up there is not
Oh,
an
you're about
image.
to show the video thing.
Yes, I am. So for those of you who are aware, if you're in my Discord, Gaelic Knox is one of the people who's been doing fan art, her and a few others as well. Well, she came to me with a proposition asking if she could have a chance to reanimate my intro because she's apparently going into to get a degree in animation. She said, I kind of want to do a thing where I do this and see how it comes out. So I said, sure, why not? Also, Fred Harvey says Cyrus the Skinhead. I actually made that joke myself.
I was avoiding saying it, but there it is.
I was making that joke myself at one point. But that said, they did make the intro, and this is the intro that is going to be showing on tomorrow's episode. But for you guys that are tuning in here, you do get a chance to have a sneak peek there. Yes, Koisa. All right, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce that. New animation. Also, I have no idea why my character looks so smug there, but Pam likes it, so that's a thing. Here we go.
Your character is always.
And there is our new animation for the channel, which apparently includes me having a very snarky look at the screen. But that's fine.
Well, you're a chunky shit, so that's how that works.
Fair enough.
Someone says the character looks hot.
Your character has more hair. Well, the character is based on when I did have more hair, but I don't have it now.
Now we need to make a skinhead version. I mean, like a shit.
You know what's awkward is that like the robes are based on Thrall from the Warcraft series, and that's actually what happened with Thrall in Warcraft too. Is he used to have like really long hair, and then like as the series went on, he shaved it all off when he started like getting more into shamanism. I'm just accidentally paralleling the character now.
Your life is going to be under a copyright claim.
That would suck because I would hope that my life is never so poorly written as any of Chris Metzen's works.
Wow, shots fired.
There's a good writer.
Just went flying across the bow. Like that's what happened.
There's a good writer for the Warcraft series, and her name is Christy Golding. There's a bad writer for the Warcraft series, and his name is Chris Metzen.
Copy that. So,
back on topic.
Yeah, let's try and chase ourselves back to the debate. Where were we? We were trying to I was trying to ally with Mike Winger at the end.
Yes, and he kept on taking the I almost said firm positions, but they weren't firm positions.
He used it as an opportunity to argue with me. As like, because that's where I think it's where we started talking about like chaos and shit, where he wanted to like go into polytheist texts and talk about chaos is that like it comes into existence rather than being eternal or something like that, which I don't like. It's weird because I don't have there's a creation stories aren't the foundation of polytheism, but Christians routinely take issue with the creation stories, and I don't know why this happens. Like I think that Winger was talking about something relating to meaning, but I think that if you're going to have meaning seated in a single entity that then just decides meaning, it has all the same problems that divine command theory does, except with meaning. Like,
meaning just becomes arbitrary. Yeah,
right.
And it's awkward. That's why I even when I was a Christian, DCT was weird. But like, I argued from a pro position from DCT because I didn't realize like how many egregious things you could actually justify with it.
The Skylar Fiction show just ended just now, and he had a guy on who was essentially arguing from divine command theory, and he was saying, and Skylar was saying, could you like force a woman to marry you? And he was like, if God commanded it, it's fine.
That's not
like then he went forward because Skylar's really good at this like moral monster argument. So he goes forward and he's like, so if if God commanded you to kill a baby, would that be moral? And he said, yes. And so then he took it with, if God commanded you to have sex with a child, would that be moral? And the guy said yes.
Yeah, no,
It was
biting of the bullet
like,
like that is not the.
holy shit.
It's not the first time that I've heard that because there was a Catholic guy who one of my best friends his daughter is dating, and there's a whole story behind that that I don't want to get into here that involves like some kind of abduction. That's again, it's not a conversation for here. But my first interaction with the boyfriend here, because I went over to his house to get my computer repaired because that's what he does, and he heard about my channel and said that no, that's a stupid idea for a channel. That's a stupid idea for a YouTube channel. And I was like, well, why? You know what? I mean, I've got at the time I had like 400 subscribers. It was a small amount, but it was still growing. And now I'm sitting at like at least there's 8,000 some odd people that don't think I'm stupid.
Well, you're an idiot, but there's also 8,000
Fair,
other idiots.
fair, yeah, 8,000 idiots. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Um,
I just
I
happen to subscribe.
the missiles are on their way, so if we hear some loud explosions through the headphones, I'll be in need of a new co-host. But
Why are there 8,000 people outside my building?
the mob is there. But during this interaction, I kind of just went into the whole. Okay, so if we go with something from Psalms, you know, is it ever okay to just murder innocent children? The whole like dashing the babies' heads on the rocks thing.
Yeah.
And again, there's two areas in the Bible where it comes up. One is in Psalms, and one is during the assault on it's either the Canaanites or the Amalekites. I'm not sure which one it is, off the top of my head. But I brought it up as an objection, and I said, you know, do you find that this is a thing that is egregious? And he says this in front of multiple people, in front of his girlfriend. He goes, no, I don't think that ultraviolence is wrong as long as God is condoning it. And I'm just like, and
Did he then like raise his sword and yell "God wills it" and kill half the people in the room?
you know what? That would have at least been consistent. But no, I was just like, is that was kind of when I just left the room because I was like, there's a conversation that's gonna happen here, but it's with the daughter of one of my best friends, or it's a conversation that would be had with the boyfriend of one of my close friends' daughters. Like that's not a conversation that I need to be having here.
Nope.
That's a private type conversation.
Nope.
So I just went, you know what? I'm just gonna walk away. We're gonna agree to disagree. And then I walked in there and I was just like, you heard? I just told the dad, I'm just like, you heard that conversation, right? And he's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, okay, cool. You have. I applaud you on being able to keep your cool, because if that were
Looks
my
like you need to
daughter,
have a conversation with somebody.
yeah, it's like if that were my daughter in this situation,
Yeah.
then I'd be like this close to using the hammer violently. Yeah, no, that's not a thing that I would tolerate myself. But again, that's other people's lives, other people's things, not my business. Just letting you know that this is a thing that doesn't just happen in the debate sphere. This is a thing that happens with just like normal, semi-functioning human beings.
Oh, so let's go. Let's like try and go back through the debate a little bit. Um, so it started off like what was the? I can't remember what the questions that he asked were, but it got pretty quickly into the homosexuality conversation. I think it was related to the meaning of people or something.
The value
right?
of the value of
Value
people.
of humans.
And that's why it was kind of weird that James like interjected and is like, no, this is entirely about human value.
Right. I think that it was tangentially related, but it had to do with the conversation. I don't think that his objection that he did apologize for it, which I think
Yeah.
that you've already mentioned, but that I don't think that what he was saying was necessarily true. But like I didn't have a problem with like how he did it. But I don't think that it was accurate. So
Yeah.
after that happened, he threw it off to me, and I brought it right back into the same conversation.
And you were just like, no, this is entirely relevant
Right,
to the
but
conversation.
I tried to frame it in a way where philosophically it would work, where like in order for a Christian to say, well, we're going to solve this problem by killing people rather than fixing the problem, then there has to be this understanding that there's a less than human, or at least worth less than other people uh, approach.
Yeah, because for you to take the
that.
approach that you're going to take away somebody's life, then their life must be worth less than something else for you to come to that decision.
Right. And like to Mike Winger's credit, he tried to scale it down as much as possible and be like, no, this is just for the Jewish people. And to me, like that doesn't matter, right? It's
All God had to do was command it once.
You still have a perfect God that is the arbiter of morality, commanding a group of people to say this is how you solve this problem. That if people are gay in your community, you have to put them to death because I don't like it. Okay.
If your argument's going to be that these people need to die because icky, then it's not a good argument.
Right. Well, there's that, and there wasn't, if there was like a pray the gay away kind of approach, like that they need to be told that that's not good or something like that, then their argument would be a little bit better because it doesn't involve killing the people that we're talking about.
Yeah, but once you've broken off the horn, you're already there.
Right. So there is a point where this arbiter of morality said you need to kill these people. And so that's, yeah. And at that point, now you need to defend it. Now you need to defend that why does the arbiter of morality make this command at this point? Because if you're going to say, well, it's immoral to do now, that means that the immutable God just changed. So now you're in all kinds of problems.
Yeah, and then you've got the. Unfortunately, I have now had the circumstances of dealing with Nephilim free, which is something that I never wanted to do. But Nephi's response to that would be, and this is a Nephilim free response, so if it sounds dumb, that's why. But I've heard his response to this before, which is that, oh no, it's not that God's morality changed, but how he deals with individual people, that can change.
What?
That is, I'm not shitting you.
But we're talking about killing people as a rule.
Yes, and that means that, yeah, no, I understand. That's why I said if it sounds stupid, it's from Nephilim free.
Like, you have to make the delineation that there's something about this group, because it's not individuals, it's a group of people. We're talking about the Jewish civilization here, in Judea.
And we have a super chat from 0132. Would ordering murder be more acceptable if they only accepted Peter Pan as a real peanut butter?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm willing to bite that bullet.
I'm willing to bite it.
I think that by consuming Peter Pan peanut butter, they're already killing themselves slowly, so why should I get involved?
Oh, that's a good point. But yeah, if like, you know, you're saying it's not about individuals in that case. It's about, it's a civilization, so it's a rule regarding people. You would have to then say that there's something different about this group of individuals that means that the death penalty for homosexuality is a good punishment.
Well, the different thing about those individuals was that they were God's chosen people.
Right, so God's racist.
No, he's not, because that's not within his nature.
Okay, so he is, but he's not.
Sorry, my Nephilim free voice isn't very good. It's not something that I practice.
That you just sounded creepy.
Okay, so in that case, I kind of like halfway succeeded.
Like I cringed. Like I just like wanted to. Yeah.
You just cringed a little listening to that.
Like, no, I don't want to. Don't do that again. It's a terrible idea. So after you went against Mike Winger pretty hard on homosexuality.
Yes, because I will,
like, you've gotten criticism for that too.
I'm fine accepting criticism for that. If Mike's wrong and I'm right, which is the case, then criticize me all the fuck you want.
So we talked about this a little bit afterwards, where I was like, you were definitely aggressive with him.
Cool.
which I don't criticize necessarily, but it is I'll note it as just a simple fact. You were very aggressive with him over that,
Cool.
uh, like
Neat.
stopping him in the middle of his statement and being like, "No, hold on, you got to stay on the point. What's the reason for this?" And like, yeah, that was a thing that was going on.
There were two issues at hand there, though. One was that Mike does have this issue where he'll dance around the topic instead of actually just addressing it.
Oh, it was all over the comments to
and
both
that's
videos.
and that's frustrating that he does that. But barring that, the issue that I had more wasn't just that he was dancing around it, because if somebody's dancing around it, I'll pin them down on it if I think that it's prudent. The other issue, though, is that we were on vMix, and the vMix software has about a half-second lag for speech. So if I am speaking, and Ocean can't hear that I'm speaking, but I no less am, and then so he goes, okay, well, there's a pause. This is where I come in to speak. And now to the audience, it looks like we're both talking at the same time and talking over each other. But it's more that there's just been a lag in there. If you've ever had a conversation over the internet where there's been like a second or a half-second lag, that's a thing that happens all the time. Every time that we've had Russ on for the review of Matt Powell's movie, which is finally done, by the way. But every time that Russ has been on for the review of Matt Powell's movie, he has a bit of lag. So we end up talking over Russ a lot, or Russ talks over us without any of us really being able to control the situation. That's just a negative side effect of the vMix software being what it is. And I think I mentioned that during the debate, was that, vMix is doing its thing. I'm going to let you say something real quick, Mike.
Right.
But yeah, combined with the fact that when he tried to dance, I tried to pin him down. It made it look really awkward.
I would just my approach to him on that was to just let him do it, and point it out every once in a while.
See,
I would be like, but that makes it arbitrary, or that doesn't address what I'm saying. And rather than chase him down, because I think that chasing him down, like if you have especially as somebody who dances as a habit. And I think that it became clear to me about halfway through that he was going to dodge most things. So there were some things where he was addressing pretty straightforwardly. Mm-hmm. But when he dodges, it's like, well, he's committed to dodging this question. It's like, okay.
That's
like
fine.
When he started talking about hell, he was like, I haven't fleshed out my beliefs on hell. And he talks about the Trinity.
It's like, wait a minute, you're a Christian who hasn't fleshed out your beliefs on hell?
Right? That
sounds like I was willing to sit there. Like there was a part of me that if it was a one-on-one conversation, I would have just been like, okay, it seems like you need to read the Apocalypse of Peter, because that's where a lot of the extrapolations come from that lead to Dante's Inferno.
That part shocked me, because he's a pastor.
Yeah, a pastor who's going to argue that people shouldn't go to a place that he doesn't understand.
No, right. It's a pastor that hasn't fleshed out his beliefs on divine punishment.
That just sounds irresponsible
to his religion. He is preaching salvation, and yet he's in a debate going to say, "Well, I don't have
I'm going to save you from the.
I don't know what's going on in hell." It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't get how you do that, because it's like, well, if you're gonna preach a salvation narrative, which is very much, especially when James asked the question, what does Christianity have that?
Yeah, I was talking about salvation.
Yeah, the salvation narrative is one of the things that you pointed out, and it's just like, well, the salvation narrative's only as important as the punishment that you're being saved from.
Right.
Like, there's no, if it's annihilation or constant subservience to God and loss of free will, I think I'll take the annihilation. But if it's, hellfire, then yeah, there might be a legitimate choice to be made. But if you don't know what the punishment actually is, moreover, if you're going to argue worldview and your worldview requires a salvation from a punishment after this life, you'd think that that's one of those things that you would just, have in your back pocket. But it's not.
I don't get it.
No, I don't either. I was
I have all these problems with hell.
Yeah, I do too. I have an entire video explaining that that's like one of my biggest contentions, is that an all-loving God can't have created hell. Sorry, that's not a... the idea that it's a punishment is also stupid, because punishments are there so that you can learn. You can't learn something how do you learn from a mistake if you can't also change yourself from that mistake? In hell, let's assume that you go down there and you're stuck there, period.
I think that the idea is that, like, if to try and run Christian for a second, the idea is going to be that you can't have heaven be a perfect place if you have sinners there. So the idea is you eliminate all the sinners, or you wash clean anybody who's willing to go.
That's
you're
fine.
not gonna wash clean people who object to be washed clean. So therefore, the rest of them go to the burning fiery place. Now,
cool. So the conversation is just dialed all the way back to, why is there a certain set of people where the only answer to these people is just to kill them?
That's when you start having the problem with Christianity.
Yeah.
The issue. Hold on.
You okay?
So, yeah. No, I'm fine. I brought up two objections to the idea of hell on the basis of justice to John Singleton. He's the Anchored Alliance guy that's been on Modern Day Debate a few times.
The open theism guy.
Yeah. And he and I debated on open theism on Modern Day Debate's channel. It was a really interesting conversation because I basically subsumed Christianity into polytheism. The thing with the hell thing was, all right, so God holds, if Calvinism is true, then God has already decided who he's sending to hell and who he's sending to heaven or accepting into heaven. Therefore, all of the responsibility is his in the first place. And the only entity that should be going to hell is God, because he's the one who's responsible for all sin. So he should be going to hell. Everybody else should be going to heaven, because nobody's really responsible for sin. It's just God.
And the counter for that is almost always going to be, well, God was the lawmaker, so he's outside of those laws. Which I've heard.
Why does it apply to anybody else if it doesn't apply to the only one responsible?
Yeah, and that's like if a congressman writes a law into existence here in reality, does that congressman not then have to follow that law or suffer some kind of punishment? We accept that the congressman has to follow that law. We accept that everybody has to follow law, whether or not they get punished for it. It's just a matter of the issues with the judicial system.
Like that the king is above the law or something like that.
Yeah, and it's not the case.
We got a super chat. Says King James is 100% confirmed homosexual. I don't know if that's true. The homosexuality, bisexuality, inbreeding of the British monarchy is well known. There's copious evidence. The atheist pushback should hit us hard. So,
oh my gosh,
we could get into a debate about that, but
who is hitting me with all of these? No.
King James was a 100% confirmed homosexual. The
robot is doing its thing.
homosexuality, bisexuality, and inbreeding of the British monarchy is well known. There is copious evidence. The atheist pushback set should hit this hard.
That's the robot.
Anytime somebody gives a $10 or higher super chat, there's a female robot voice that will also voice out whatever the super chat said.
That's right.
On top of that,
somebody was saying something about, see, you're right that you can't be a pastor without understanding your position in hell, but most pastors aren't real pastors. This is like the no true Christian argument.
Yeah, I don't like no
and
true
to say
Scotsman.
that Mike Winger's not a true pastor. I don't like the guy. Here's something that I'll say about him is he does know his shit. Like he's good at he's been on Pine Creek's channel a number of times. The guy defends himself well. Sometimes
he's been on Pine Creek's channel a number of times, but now he doesn't have time.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to do a presentation every week. Like he's got to whatever. But anyway, the guy does know his stuff, and I don't have any doubts that he's a Christian. But it's funny that there's a Christian in the live chat saying, well, no, he's not a real Christian because he doesn't. I do think it's weird that as a pastor, he hasn't refined his beliefs on hell, though, because I think that's something you would address pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole reason that you have a salvation narrative.
And maybe he had at one point before he became a pastor, but now he's willing to re-examine it or something like that. I think he said something like that he's like, he tries to like delete himself and then go back into it.
That's the case, then that's at least an honest position, considering that if we're just talking about the Bible doesn't have a whole lot of words on hell.
It's true.
So I mean, if that's the case, that's why I was saying that like he needs to go in and read like the Apocalypse of Peter. He needs to go in and read the Divine Comedy to find out where a lot of the historical ideas of hell have come from.
Right. And that's why one of the reasons why I brought up Dante's Inferno is because a lot of things that you were saying sounded like it came from that, but he hasn't read it, so I think he should. Because I think that if you're going to refine your beliefs on hell, you need to read what little the Bible has on hell. Then you need to read Dante's Inferno and Paradise Lost. Mm-hmm. And then you can figure out, because like Dante's Inferno and Paradise Lost have a lot of the popular ideas that we have about Satan and hell come from those two texts.
I would add in that Apocalypse of Peter is another one, but that's from as well.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that one, to be honest with you.
It's if memory serves, it's one of the 3rd century pieces that was written.
Wow.
On hell.
Okay.
So yeah, no, that's why I said that it's one of the earlier pieces of literature on that entire idea.
Okay.
And that's why it's in my suggested category for.
There's a little bit of stuff like that in Enoch as well, which is much older than even Apocalypse of Peter. As I have a copy of the Book of Enoch, and I read it. It's where we get a lot of like the third of angels falling, and there's also part of it is that angels were leading armies of humans against each other. Mm-hmm. And it has their names. It's got ranks. Enoch goes on a journey and he finds the tree of life.
Oh, it's the Bible, but interesting.
Right. No, it's actually really fucking cool. Man, everybody's calling me right now. Like my phone is going off the fritz. Like as soon as I go live, like all of a sudden my phone's like, "Hey, everybody needs to talk to you." So, yeah. Anyway, fiddlesticks. What were we saying? Hell. Oh, yes. Enoch. Yeah, but no, Enoch's awesome. Anybody who gets a chance to read the Book of Enoch, just give it a flip through because it's fucking cool.
Gaelic Knox asked Gaelic Knox is actually the one who made the intro. She just asked in the chat, Ocean, who's your primary deity?
I don't really like this idea of like patron deities or primary deities. I don't necessarily accept, but it's I'm very, you might say that primarily worship Thor and Fortuna and Odin. But that's also a fairly incomplete list, I'd say. But I'm very rested in the Norse pantheon. That's like where my kind of home base is as far as my spirituality is concerned. It's like the Norse and Anglo-Saxon, Scandinavian ideas. Which, when Mike tried to address me on polytheistic beliefs, he didn't go to Norse beliefs. He went to Greek. Pretty quickly, he started objecting to chaos.
And the whole
creation
reason
story too. He didn't go to like Thor belief or anything like that. He went to the creation story.
I think the problem with trying to address chaos is that the only thing that he had on it was that some of the earliest literature says chaos begins, and so it can't have been the first cause because it also began. I'm just like, well, that's fine. Do you want us to start talking about contradictions in your literature? Because if that's the case, we can totally go there.
Right. He wasn't bringing up contradictions.
No, he was just bringing up one inconsistency with it being the beginning, which was just a literary issue.
No, it's still the beginning. It just comes into existence. He's just saying that it wasn't eternal.
But chaos, but it doesn't have to be eternal, because if chaos by its, from what I understand, chaos by its nature would bring itself into existence as a matter of randomness and inevitability.
Right.
That's all chaos is and does. All that chaos is and does is that chaos is and does.
Well, except when it doesn't.
Except when it doesn't. But it's a roll of the dice whether it will do one of those.
There is a chaos is kind of a fun thing to argue with because it kind of like bounces around as far as its properties are concerned. It doesn't necessarily have to exist all the time. it can pop into existence whenever, wherever it wants. It doesn't necessarily have to make all the sense in the world. There is and yet still there's kind of a consistency to it. Um, so so it's a fun set of paradoxes to play with. It was one of the reasons why I use it in debates sometimes, is because it does all these funny little things. In the atheist community of Austin Discord, there was a Discordian that showed up, which are people that like hold chaos and Eris and Discordia. Like there's three entities that are like really, really closely related to each other. And Eris and Discordia are the Greek and Roman forms of the same thing. And there he said that he was an atheist, but that he was very religious and that he worshipped Discordia.
But wait a minute. That doesn't...
No, yes, it does. Because Discord is not considered a god. Because of the... it pops in and out of existence. Agency isn't necessarily an attribute of it. So it's got like... The properties of a god needs to be that it needs to be a disembodied mind. Well, that's not quite what chaos is. It is a thing that does things. It doesn't necessarily have intentional states. So
say if chaos had a mind, it would no longer be chaos.
Right. So it's not a god. So somebody who worships chaos can be an atheist, despite the fact that they engage in ritual with a supernatural entity.
It's just whether or not they affirm that that is in fact a supernatural entity.
Right. But this guy was like throwing everybody for a loop.
The conversation on chaos gets us very far away from the debate, but I think it's still an interesting conversation.
Yeah, but like that's one of the Christians shouldn't, if they're going to go against the polytheist creation story, they need to deal with like Nu or Yggdrasil. Don't go against chaos. And because one of the reasons why I bring it up is because it's so hard to fight against. Because it is a difficult thing to wrap your mind around, but it does have a consistency to it, which is one of the reasons why it's fun to engage in these conversations with it. It's just hard to understand, and I've largely stopped bringing it up in debates because of this reason, because it is kind of like it is a little underhanded, but it's definitely a historical and consistent belief from polytheism that is a fun tool to bring out in debates sometimes. But like I've said in the debate, the creation doesn't matter to polytheism. How it happened doesn't matter.
It just happens.
There's multiple explanations about it, and it's like that's fine. It's not really an issue.
That's why it's weird that like this is a thing that I see a lot of Christians do, not just Mike Winger. But it seems to me that Mike Winger exemplified this during the conversation at the very least, is that the only way that they can really argue is by projecting a problem with their religion onto you. Like one of the problems with Christianity is the creation story. So you go, hey, we have a problem with creation story. Let's throw this onto you. It's like, okay, but your objection comes from literature. We can object to literature in the Bible all the time. Or there'll be a moral issue. So they'll project that onto you, and you go, okay, well, if we're having a moral issue, then we can talk about the morality of God and all the morally horrible things he's done.
Two things happened when he started trying to object to polytheism. One was, look, you're bringing up Hesiod, I believe, where we don't, like, polytheists don't hold the same kind of attitude towards, I didn't bring this up in the debate, but we don't hold the same kind of attitude towards Scripture that Christians do. It is not true because it's Scripture. Whereas Christians are like, the Bible has like this status of being the truth. And with polytheists, it's like, no, these are revelations. Doesn't mean that they're true, but it's what we have to go on, especially when you're doing like a historical tradition following. You're going to be looking at it as like, these are clues to what they believed, but that doesn't mean that it's true. Like, we don't hold any sort of philosophical position like that. It's not the text said it, therefore that's what it is. We don't think that Odin preserved the Eddas in a perfect form when Snorri Sturluson wrote them down.
If it happens to be I think for polytheism, if it happens to be that any of those things are the case, then that's cool, but if it happens to be that they're not the case, you don't have an idea of inerrant.
It's not a problem.
Yeah, you don't have an idea of inerrant scripture to fall back on. It doesn't have to be inerrant. Like, there's the reason apologetics exists for the Bible and for the Quran in the same way that, and they don't really exist.
Because they hold that same standard of this is true because God said it.
It has to be inerrant, and so you have to have apologetics to defend it from a position of inerrancy, which is not something that you really see so much in polytheism, and you don't see it almost at all in atheism because you don't have a scripture to fall back on to try to figure out.
The closest thing that we have to that would be the Havamal, which is considered the words of Odin. But even that, we look at the Havamal as like a set of suggestions. It's not law handed down by Odin. This is how you can live a good life. And then there's some other things in it that are more magical. But the first 100-something verses in it is more about like just practical advice to living. And that's about as close as you can get to it. And there's not really anything that's untrue in there. There's some things that you might say, well, I live my life differently. Okay, you live your life differently. So it's not the same problem there. The other thing that Mike Winger did was he was like, okay, so here's the problems that I have with polytheism are that it's different from Christianity. To which I can basically say, yes, of course it is. Like that seemed to be the main objection that he was putting forward to polytheism, is that there's differences between it and Christianity, which I was willing to admit from the fucking outset. Like that's not.
It's like, of course, there's problems.
Surprising
with it.
That there's differences.
The only reason
are those differences problems. That's what I feel like he wasn't able to really demonstrate.
Well, it's like, again, only if you hold the position that your worldview and your scriptures are inerrant does anyone having a differing opinion become a problem. It's not a problem if you don't have to defend that this is the only way things can be and only those that conform to this are correct. And that's kind of where the biggest problem with Christianity comes in, is that it's exclusionary. Yeah.
Which we've talked back and forth on. I think that the problem with Christianity is that it's an exclusionary tradition, or that it's exclusionary.
There's
exclusivity faith. That's the term that I tend to use.
And if somebody wants to argue that it's not exclusionary, then why is it that there are missionaries, and why is that a thing that's in the Bible? If it's not exclusionary, then why is there such a concerted effort to convert people to it?
Right. And that everybody else is wrong, we're right. And that you even find that exclusivity problem when Christians are talking to each other.
Within the different denominations. In the chat, that's actually what's happening right now.
Is there two Christians arguing with each other?
There's one arguing from there's only one true church, there's only one true type of Christian type of deal.
Right, and that's exemplary of it. It's an exclusivity of tradition.
It's like, if you want an example of what we're talking about, just look in the live chat. It's there.
You get a Christian and a Muslim, very, very similar faith. They will argue with each other to hell over like very, very subtle things. Whereas a Norse polytheist and an Egyptian polytheist, Kemetic, can sit down with each other and have a radically different faith system. But we will agree more, despite the fact that the differences are larger than a Muslim and a Christian. And I think it's kind of an interesting telling thing. Like one of my good friends that I've developed on, two major friends that I've developed on Twitter with the polytheism thing, all these discussions, is like Singero and Callan. And I'm Norse, Singero's Celt, and Callan is Sumerian. Radically different religions. Huge differences between them all. And yet, we're all in the same camp because we're polytheists. There's not really an objection that we have to one another.
You don't have to fight anybody to make them comport to the ideals of Thor.
Correct.
Also, I think that weird things are about to happen, because the message just got sent through the live chat that just flicked back to where you played the animation. Skinhead Suris, you say, coming right up.
Uh-oh.
I'm concerned. But whatever
Let's
comes
see it.
whatever
Let's
comes
see
out
it.
of it,
I
whatever
wanna
comes
see
out
it.
of it, I'm willing to throw it on the screen.
I am ready.
Unfortunately, you have no way of. Well, actually, you do have a way of seeing the screen.
I'm looking at the live feed, so I'll see. I might see it a little bit later than everybody else does.
Yeah,
but I'll see it.
You'll definitely see it. It's a thing that you'll be able to see.
I'll do that.
It's going to be confusing. I don't know. I haven't had my hair like this in a very long time, but this is how I had to have it growing up. Because in Pensacola Christian Academy, if you didn't have your hair like this, you got sent home.
Oh,
yeah,
good times.
You had to have military buzz cut. Fun fact: I found out that Pensacola Christian Academy has loose affiliations with the old IFB, the cult that I've been dealing with.
Let's see. I'm reading the live chat. The cult that you've been dealing with? What? Wait.
Okay, so I've been dealing with Matt Powell and...
that guy.
Yes. So they're all part of what's called the NIFB. They are a branch off of the old IFB, and I found out that historically, the school that I went to was loosely affiliated with the old IFB. It explains some things. But it was like non-denominational old IFB nonsense. This shit is just weird. But not just that. Going back through and finding out that I've actually got people in my Discord who have family that go to Matt Powell's church.
Oh.
So,
oh.
Yeah. Just awkward fun stuff. It's been interesting. I'm so glad I'm done with that movie, though. That was a painful process. 6 live streams to get through that thing. Should have been able to do it in one, but nope.
Oh, there was a lot of things it was being said over and over in that movie,
and they were all wrong.
They just repeated themselves. Hey, are we watching this animation? I've been waiting for it.
No, not yet. I mean, they just said that it was
oh, it's incoming. Oh, gods! I've been sitting here being like, all right, well, let's play the thing.
Just play the thing. It'll be there.
Okay.
Russ is going, Ocean. You haven't noticed me.
Who's that?
Frustrated atheist.
I'm kidding.
I'm just getting a very senpai notice me vibe out of that.
Yeah, Russ has been putting forward the atheo-pagan position pretty hard, which is kind of fun. That's like, I have my disagreements with atheo-paganism. I think I've talked to him a little bit about it, but overall, it's like, all right, cool.
You do you, boo-boo.
You do your thing. There's a couple of atheo-pagans now in the scene. Like there's Russ and there's the Frank from Geek Room is an atheo-pagan.
Yep.
Anyway, more to thinking about this debate. What's your come away with it? What have you gotten any feedback or anything like that? Or...
So some of the feedback that I got, obviously we got the feedback from Skylar Fiction.
Yeah, and Digital Hammurabi, who said that they seem to think that we were a team, which it kind of worked out that way. I didn't want it to be that way, but that's how it worked out.
Is the unfortunate side effect was that was the case. It's the same thing that would have happened like you put if you had said, hey, let's put a hard atheist and a weak atheist in the same group and have them fight each other, and it was like me and Godless Iowan. It was like, but we've already hashed out most of those conversations. So what are we doing here?
Honestly, if it had been Godless Iowan, that probably would have made a more interesting conversation too.
It probably would have,
because I think he would be taking harder objections to me. You didn't take any objections to me.
No, because I'm just sitting there like my position.
Like towards the end of the debate, I didn't do this, but it's because it didn't come to me until after the debate. But I was like, what I could have said was, hey, Suris isn't defending anything. It's just me and you, Mike. Well, you weren't really like holding a position in that debate. It was because you argued like an agnostic, because you're not like aggressively putting forward a position. You're more, I'm not convinced, and I wasn't trying to convince you, but Mike wanted to convince you because he's a Christian exclusivity tradition. So that's obvious. That's the recipe for when it's going to be me versus him and you versus him, and not really us fighting each other, because I'm not an exclusivity tradition, he is, and you don't have a problem with pagans.
And I argue for the position that this could be the case. I guess we'll find out. And if we find out, that's awesome. And if we don't find out, then okay, equally awesome. At least we took that journey.
Right.
That's like if I wake up tomorrow and I find that I'm dead and I'm in an afterlife and it's at least not the Christian one, I can at least go, okay, cool, I've got another journey I can walk down. That's awesome. Right. I don't have a dog in the race. I don't have a dog in the race of it being one, the other, or it not being any at all. I think that the idea of eternity is a little silly, but that's just me.
It's daunting.
It's just one of those things that like I don't like being bored, so the idea of eternity just sounds to me like eventual boredom is what that really boils down to me.
So many new Pokemon. I mean, people will keep showing up into the afterlife.
So many new Pokemon. It's like, oh wow, this one's a Smeargle.
But I don't know. Eternity is a pretty daunting thing though for an afterlife. It's like,
like I wouldn't mind the idea. Like I wouldn't mind the idea of like. I don't mind the idea of something like reincarnation as an example, because the idea of being able to like have a cursory knowledge of what I did in the last life, that sounds to me like, okay, cool. I like New Game Plus as an option in my RPGs.
Right.
That's really what that boils down to, is just like it's real life New Game Plus. Okay, cool. That would be like, I wouldn't mind that if that was the case. But if it turns out that it's not the case and I die and I'm in the ground, well, I'm not really going to have the capacity to care one way or another.
Right. Like, that's one of the, like, for me, it's just, I'm agnostic on it. There's some ideas that I'm willing to defend. Like, as far as the Norse telling of it, I think that the Norse understanding of the afterlife is one of the more convincing ones that I've bumped into. But it still rests on a lot of the same justifications that caused me to be agnostic about it. So, I'm willing to defend it in a conversation, but I can't say that like I believe that there's an afterlife, because I don't know, or not that I don't know, but like the justification that I use for polytheism is that, if it's spiritual experiences, I haven't had any experience of an afterlife, so I'm almost like necessarily agnostic on it.
There's only one way you'll be able to have an experience on an afterlife.
Right.
And
I don't want to have that right now.
We can arrange this if you'd like.
No, put it fucking down. This fucking guy.
Frustrated atheist. Suris, we don't believe in God, so have a day? Oh dear. I have been told to check the art tab of my Discord.
Uh-oh.
Oh, God.
Let me see this. I need to go down to the Discord.
Here we are, everyone. Apparently this is Skinhead Suris.
Wow.
Oh, dear.
My head, it's cold.
My head, it's so cold.
That's disturbing a little bit.
We're
going to leave that up.
Think I should just leave that up?
Yeah, just leave it up.
It's up there. It's up there. Pufflepugus says, Suris, any chance you or Ocean could line up a conversation with a person that has knowledge of the religions of America's indigenous people?
That could be cool.
That would be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think I might be able to dig up somebody.
I'm just gonna put an objection right there. I've read a little bit of Stephen King, and doing any digging up of America's indigenous people usually causes the spooky things to happen.
Pun not intended, but yeah, okay.
It usually causes the spooky things to happen. Maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, I saw Poltergeist. God damn it, dude.
Phrasing.
Right. Like as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, oh fuck.
I think I can dig up some of American.
And then you held
people.
up your finger. I was like, God damn, he's gonna point it out, isn't he? But yeah, I think we could probably find somebody. I'll start looking around, asking around, because I think there's yeah, we could probably find somebody for that conversation. That's a good idea.
That'd be interesting. We could probably bring that up to James as well and say, hey, do you want to do this on MDD?
Yeah. Well,
It depends on what it is. If it's a debate sphere type thing.
A lot of polytheists don't get into the debating thing. So, and I think that like Native American spirituality kind of hovers between monotheism and polytheism, but it's definitely like indigenous belief systems, especially polytheistic indigenous belief systems. They're more concerned about other things than debating the merits of it. Like they're more concerned about preserving their traditions rather than the merits of it. So I think that if we're going to have a conversation with somebody that it's going to be like trying to explain these beliefs to us, it needs to be talking about the what they are rather than challenging the merits of it.
Yeah,
that's my opinion that I'm putting forward. Because like people like me, I'm fine with debating, but I'm a minority among polytheists, as you know. That like there's a lot of really intelligent people on the philosophy side of polytheism. They're like, no, we don't debate this because it's kind of pointless to do it. Edward Butler repeatedly puts forward that he doesn't see the merits of debating the issue.
I can see that, because if you don't have an exclusivity tradition, then like usually a debate is for convincing the audience. But what are you trying to convince the audience at that point? Right.
And for me, it's more about just elevating respect for the position. And there's another friend of mine who's an Anglo-Saxon heathen that I've seen him debate atheists, like especially like your hard anti-theist, religion is stupid atheists.
Mm-hmm.
And he rips them apart, like holy shit. And he doesn't bother with the philosophy. He knows the philosophy, and he'll have the philosophy conversation. But what he does is he goes straight to the motivations of the atheist as to why they're debating this, because he thinks that the same reasons that he doesn't see the point of debating polytheism, atheists shouldn't necessarily see the point of debating atheism with people that aren't trying to tell them what to do, like Christians.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate side effect, I think, of living in a society that is dominated by the exclusivity monotheisms. Right. When your society is necessarily dominated by those types of monotheistic traditions, you end up having the people who go, well, religion causes this, that, and that. It's like, okay, you're right. The predominant religions do. They do cause these problems, and so you fight those religions. But just sitting there and saying all religions are bad, okay, well, where do you measure that? Or like the worst one is all God beliefs are bad. Okay, how do you measure that? Can you measure that actually caused those problems? We can measure that Jonestown was bad. We can do that. That's easy. Heaven's Gate, we can measure that was bad. All cult-like behavior as being bad, if it conforms to something like the Bite model, that's pretty easy to do. That's not hard. But that's not all religions. That's like saying that by if you try to argue that all religions are like that, then my suggestion would be, okay, that's fine, but now you have to argue against fan clubs for anime.
Fuck.
Because I actually had a conversation in my comment section today, because there was a video that College Humor did recently that I really agree with. It was that religious nerds are the most vehement nerds. There's no difference between watching a Star Wars and a Star Trek fan go at each other's throats than it is to watch like a Calvinist and a Baptist go at each other's throats. There's no difference in the tactics.
Star Wars exclusivity traditions.
That's and is that not a thing that we see?
No, we do. Where it's like you have to like either one or the other. One or the other must be considered the best.
And you can't
like both of them.
And
otherwise you're fucking casual.
And by the way, the people that think that you have to like one or the other, Star Wars is a space western, and Star Trek is more about deep lore. There's actual science fiction. So they're completely different things.
I agree with that. One is science fiction, the other is a space opera.
Yeah, they're two completely different things. The fact that they both happen in space and say star doesn't mean anything. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to start saying that you can't like one or the other in regards to like Tenchi Muyo.
Here's my answer to that quandary, though. It's like which one is better, Star Trek or Star Wars? My answer is StarCraft.
I would agree with you if Blizzard wasn't a shit company.
But they haven't ruined StarCraft.
You say that.
Yes.
It's not that they've ruined StarCraft, it's that the gaming community has moved so far away from RTSs being a standard.
It's still around. It's still kicking as a esport as well. Like
I understand that it's still around and still kicking.
Blizzard's going to cut Overwatch before they cut StarCraft because the watchability of StarCraft is just absolutely off the rails. I still watch StarCraft. So.
The problem is, though, at least in America, this is where we have the most issue, because South Korea is still a huge StarCraft nation.
Right.
But with something like
America's not.
America's not. America goes through trends. Right now, we're in the Battle Royale trend. Before that, we were in the MOBA trend. Before that, we were in the RPG mechanics trend, where you inserted RPG mechanics into everything. Before that, we were in the FPS trend.
That was such a glorious era.
Where everything got RPG mechanics?
Yeah. Everything.
Oh, I forgot.
Yes.
I completely forgot. There's also the open world trend that we had for a little while there. That has
Breath of the Wild came out and was like, "Yay, we did it right!" And everybody was like, "We moved on already."
And then Breath of the Wild was like, "I'm still a fucking good game. Notice me.
I'm still great. Please notice me. I'm good." Now we're talking about video gaming.
It really is, though. It really is good.
Okay, well, you know what? I need to get one of those at some point.
You really do, because we need to play Smash.
Oh, Smash is on. That's right.
Yeah, Smash is out on this.
Huh.
Yeah.
Between Smash, Breath of the Wild,
Monster Hunter.
What's another? Monster. No, I don't want to play Monster Hunter on that. I play Monster Hunter on PC.
It's a completely different game. This is older generation Monster Hunter.
Oh, so I can play a dumber one. Got it. Okay.
A dumber one.
And
you need to play Generations. It's a much harder game than World.
Okay. Fine.
Anyway, well, Dune is the biblical history skeptics. Dune is the best. If we're talking about old,
I haven't read Dune, but I've heard really good things like that. It's much more.
I think he's talking about the RTS. Dune is also a real-time strategy game on the PC.
Is it Dune RTS?
Yes.
Huh.
It's what Warcraft and Command and Conquer built their engines off of.
No, I know who said that, and he's saying that to the Star Wars, Star Trek, StarCraft conversation. I think he's just going to go, no, it's Dune. And it's like, I don't know if that counts. They're not in space, or are they?
I think they're technically in space. It's a different planet.
Are they just on another planet? Okay.
Yeah, they're on another planet.
Cool.
I mean, by that logic, Dragon Riders of Pern isn't science fiction.
The Aliens universe would be. Well, I'm just talking about like space stuff, like big space stories, like Star Trek, Star Wars, StarCraft.
Yeah, Dragon Riders of Pern falls into that.
I don't know what that is.
It's a science fiction series that's about like 80 books deep. It's a fucking massive series. When the original author died, her son took over continuing the series.
Oh wow, okay.
But it's a basically
it's a book series.
It's a book series. It's an old science fiction series. Basically, humanity when humanity got to the point where it was embroiled in galactic politics. There was a subset of humanity that wanted to go back to where things were simpler and they weren't in the middle of like fucking galactic war all the time. So they found a little planet that didn't have enough. It had enough resources to sustain a population, but it didn't have enough resources to be wanted by like any galactic mining companies or anything. So they sent themselves there and started like domesticating the indigenous reptiles and genetically modifying them so that they could actually turn into their mounts and become dragons. Like it's literally what would happen if you had a medieval story with dragons, but it's all science fiction underpinnings.
This sounds like the Chronicles of Gore.
It's
without all the BDSM.
No, all the BDSM is in there.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, no, the
right.
main two the protagonists change throughout every single book. It's all the same people, but it's told from the perspective of a different villager or a different leader or a different important person to that story. But the beginning of it starts out as a sub-dom relationship.
Great.
So no, all the BDSM underpinnings are there too.
Good stuff. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
familiar with Chronicles of Gore, right?
I'm tangentially familiar with it.
Yeah. So, premise is a planet on the other side of the sun. It's really small, but it's owned by this alien civilization that teleports around that uses their planet to go next to different stars, and they collect different life forms from each solar system that they go to, and they have like this basic. Their planet is like this big farm of different critters and animals from different worlds. So, and there's humans that have been brought there, and the rule about humans is they're not allowed, or the rule of any sentient beings that use technology, because there's multiple sentient beings that use technology on the planet, is that they're not allowed to use any sort of technology beyond gunpowder. So they're not allowed to explode things, and that only applies to weapons. So you do have like little things where there's technology, like your bed will heat up or cool down in order to wake you up, kind of thing.
Sounds like a really good setting for a fantasy story, because swords are better than guns. I'm sorry.
Right. So, but anybody who the aliens that have the planet have like these little like ships that are not visible to the naked eye that float around because they've got like the stealth technology, and look for people that are trying to develop gunpowder weapons. And as soon as they see them, they shoot this blue flame at them that eliminates them from existence. So that the aliens that control the planet are kind of worshipped because of this, because there's this judgment that is like verifiable that'll come down and kill people in the middle of like several people watching. That's the premise of it, and it's got this like world building that's also like jumps into like lots of weird sexual shit too.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it parallels with Pern pretty well. The only difference is with Pern, they're limited by the technology because that was the design. They can't harvest the technology, but like by the time the Pern series starts like 900 years after they land on that planet, you have to go like further into the series to find the origins of how they got on that planet. They start out not knowing about their origins. They start out thinking that no, dragons they've always been here. It's just a thing we have. They're just like, we live in castles. That's normal. That's how things have always been. And then they start digging up fucking spaceships. And they start like one of their blacksmiths has to like start just pouring acid into these solutions. And he's like, why is that creating, what is that shocky shit? That's what this book calls that electricity. Like, there's an entire book where like they're just trying to build a computer.
All right, let's reel ourselves back into the debate. No, is there anything else that we really want to talk about regarding that debate now that we're kind of doing a post-mortem on it?
The only thing that I would say,
I wish we'd fought more. That's all that I have to say about it.
That's kind
but I don't know what we would fight about. So.
That's kind of where I sit as well. I really wish that there had been more stuff that me and you could have gone at each other for, and then Mike, at least so that Mike could have rested for a bit.
No, dude, that guy, he was put through the ringer. He dodged half the questions, but he was put through the ringer by us, on that, and it is like, that's because I've been in extended debates like that before, and it does like take a brain toll where it's like you got to come up with all these things and address like several things, especially when more than one person is coming at you at once. And I tried to stay quiet while you were doing your thing, and because I didn't want to like create chaos.
You don't want to dogpile.
You kind of did the same thing, because like dogpiling is just fucking unfair, but at the same time it did work out as being like he was fighting on two sides.
Yeah.
It's hard to do because he was essentially having to be prepared for debating polytheism and atheism at the same time. And while I was prepared to do fighting Christianity and atheism at the same time, once I realized it was you, it was like, oh, well, I'm not stressed about this at all. Like, it's not, like, you're not going to come at me with much that we haven't already sussed out.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of like the first debate we had was literally us just rehashing a previous conversation.
Yeah, we just read our Twitter fight.
Yeah,
because that's the first interaction I had with Suris, was that we had a Twitter fight, but the Twitter fight wound up being like aggressive agreement not really aggressive. We wound up just like passively agreeing with each other about what the issues were.
Yeah, because I think it was mainly on like the
like,
concept of sins are all about consumption. You can't consume things if you're a
right. It was whether or not you could sin in hell or
Yeah.
sin in heaven. Sorry.
Well, it would entail both. If you're a spirit in either one.
Yeah, I guess you can't sin in hell either. Unless, you like bring your penis with you or something.
Well, like there's in the Muslim version of hell you can, but the Muslim version of hell is actually well sussed out.
In heaven, in Muslim version of heaven, you can. There's like what's the 72 virgins for?
It's for teaching. It's for teaching them how to all be good wives. It just so happens that the sex comes with it.
Your smile is I'm hearing bullshit. Wow. Okay. So I guess we can wrap this shit up then.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that was mostly just the issues with the Mike Wicker thing, and because I know that Mike isn't going to have time to personally talk with me about issues like this anytime soon. That's why I decided to just go ahead and do an episode on his secular case against homosexuality as my as one of my uploads. Just like I'm just going to do it.
He did say he probably wasn't going to be able to do it, so
yeah. So it's just like what, that's fine. And I think I said during that episode, if Mike finds this episode and he holds issue with anything that I said, awesome, he can do that. That's a thing he can do.
And same with me. It's like, because I definitely have my disagreements with him. I respect the guy. Like I think he's a good dude.
I think he has good intentions.
Right. That's a better way of putting it. I think that some of his opinions are reprehensible, but he is going about it with good intentions.
Yeah, and that's where it comes into, is that if he thinks he's doing the right thing, and that's in some cases that's the more dangerous thing. But also nobody's the villain of their own story. So
right, and I think that there was a couple of things that were said in the in-between chat when we were off air, which was, hey, Kyle said to me that he was like, I'm not polytheist, and because like the whole God belief thing he doesn't necessarily agree with, but when it gets into the social issues and he's hearing me talk about it, he was like, I don't have a problem with you. Like there's not an issue.
Yeah, I don't think I was there for that part of the combo because I had already hopped into James's chat during that.
Right. But I think that we said to Mike, hey, you need to make some videos against people like Steven Anderson, Matt Powell, and those guys. And he was like, he said he avoids them.
No,
he doesn't really watch their stuff. And it's just like, no, dude, you
need to.
We need more Christians calling these guys out. Which would be, I think it would be hugely positive. And it would help him, like the vantage point that a lot of like the atheist community has on him is like, well, I disagree with Mike Winger on this, and this, and this, but at least he's calling out Matt Powell. Like that would be cool. Like people would say that about him.
That's one of those things that like you can't just say, well, I'm just going to avoid these people, because what that boils down to me is that you're avoiding those people because they're still rooting for your camp. It's just not your flavor of camp.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to do the infighting.
And like, I'm sorry, but when I play D&D, I play chaotic characters because I do like seeing the chaos there. I do like seeing some of the infighting. I will admit to that. I think that it's very entertaining. Watching a Calvinist and literally any other Christian fight, excellent stuff. Always interesting. But that's not the reason that I would want somebody calling out Powell and Anderson. I don't want to see them calling each other out because it would cause infighting, and I happen to find that entertaining. I would want them doing it because there's morally reprehensible things being said that need to be addressed from within, not just from without. Because from without, I'm of a reprobate mind. So there's nothing I can say.
But is Mike Winger a reprobate? There's some Christians that are in the chat right now that might think that he's a reprobate, but
fair.
But if Winger's got some clout among Christians, so if he starts, and it's just true, like he does have some clout among Christians. I think he's like a pastor of a sizable church. He should be calling out these guys and being like, no, we don't. Like, I think that he doesn't come, even on the issues of homosexuality, it's obvious that he's not coming at it from a position that I hate gay people, right? he's more of the position of like, okay, it's a sin. Steven Anderson's rhetoric is more of the I hate gay people position.
Yeah. Steve, this is the whole reason why I did the episode on Onision recently. Was when Onision said that, oh well, there's churches don't say murder the gay people, and I'm just like, roll the clips of the churches saying that.
Some of them do, yeah. But he's right that generally they don't. Like most Christians, I think, disagree with Matt Powell, Steven Anderson, Christians of that ilk.
Yeah,
and I think that
but the problem is not how many
more atheists should be acknowledging that. But we should also talk about what arguments they're putting forward, because a lot of arguments that Christians are putting forward about homosexuality, even when they're not of the stone 'em to death ilk,
are just wrong.
Right. There's still a lot of problems with it.
And that's the case with Mike's, is he would go to, oh well, there's these secular studies. Like, you mean those studies that have been discredited or
and that's a problem.
Or come from reason, like when he would say, oh, they have a higher proclivity for drug use. Well, of course, an ostracized group of people have a higher proclivity for drug use as a coping mechanism. Duh.
You could say that if stats don't exist on pagans, but I wouldn't be surprised if pagans have similar stats.
It would make sense to me.
It's not because, there's anything necessarily, like being pagan doesn't cause these things, but being ostracized does.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I know in polytheist communities that have like backgrounds where their families ostracized them, or they've been thrown out, or there's there's
just the side effects of being a marginalized group.
You're wrong all the way to nobody in the family is going to talk to you anymore because you have these beliefs.
Yeah, and of course you're going to turn to some less than healthy coping mechanisms, because at that point you have one of two options. You either find a new family, or you find literally any method to cope. And those methods can be anything from escapism, hopping into video games or books, or any other thing that you can use as a method of escapism, or going into substance abuse, or finding yourself, like there's even some that can probably find themselves in the middle of gang violence just because they happen to need a replacement family, and there's a lot of gang culture that will prey on that.
Right. And there is some there's definitely Norse gangs. Like you get into shit like Sons of Odin and all that crap. Yeah. So if you're homeless at 16 because you're Norse pagan, and then
you're gonna find this group.
Hey, you can fucking sleep on our couch, man. We're with you. And it's like, oh, okay, well now you're sucked into this world.
And at that point, what do? Do you get rid of another family? Because historically, that's usually not what people will do. Historically, they'll take their second family first, and they'll keep it as long as they can because they've already lost one. Yeah. And so what I find reprehensible about Winger's position on stuff like this is not that he says homosexuality is wrong and he thinks he's got some good reasons. If he thinks he's got some good reasons, fine. The problem is that by having the rhetoric that he does from such a reasoned position, he's inevitably causing these problems to continue and get worse.
Right. Well, at the same time, not calling out people that are bigger causes of the problem, like people with the Steven Anderson rhetoric. And that's why, I think my opinions of Mike Winger, which I already have I respect the guy position somewhat. His opinion, a lot of his opinions are like, oh god damn it. But if he was calling out that kind of Christian, I think my respect for him would definitely go up. And I think that it wouldn't be something where he'd have to be dishonest with himself in doing. I think he actually holds the positions that these kind of Christians are shitty.
Just a matter of will he call them out on it?
Right. No, and I think he should.
And history might end up showing that he does that over time.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Maybe he
we'll
does.
See.
And I'd love to see it. But yeah. So, anywho, I think that's about as much as we can do as far as the post-mortem of our debate with
Mikey Poo.
Supposedly each other, but mostly Mike Winger.
Yes, it was mostly on Mike, unfortunately. Maybe at some point we'll be thrown into the arena again and find ourselves on opposite sides and actually be able to be on opposite sides.
No, we should just contact Modern Day Debate and just be like, let's have an Ocean versus Suris debate where the two of us just sit there and stare at each other and be like, so what do we
what do we do? All right. With that said, we thank
Let us
you
know
all.
in the comments if you want to see a modern day debate where Suris and I just kind of like stare at each other and blink, trying to figure out how to debate each other.
With that said, guys, we thank you very much for hopping out today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you guys will enjoy tomorrow's episode, which will be on whatever the hell I decide. I have no idea yet.
And actually, here we go. In the comments, what subject would you want to see me and Suris debate on? Like, seriously. Because I'd love to figure... If we can go at each other on something...
That would be good.
Yeah. No, it would be interesting. And maybe we can do a hammered out episode in which we try to debate each other on a topic. So just put some topic suggestions down in the chat, and maybe Suris and I can actually disagree.
Yep. We'll see how it goes.